Yo guys, it is your boy Niren here, and I am back once again with yet another video that revolves around, you know, that European Super League thing that we've been hearing about. It's just been popping up here and there. Yeah, that old chestnut, we're back once again. Now, UEFA have been threatening the big clubs that are trying to break away here into this Super League with players not being allowed to play in UEFA competitions. Obviously, that extends to the Champions League and Europa League, but more crucially than that, the UEFA Conference League. I'm talking about the Euros, obviously, and with Euro 2021 around the corner, it could have massive ramifications for the tournament overall. The likes of Belgium wouldn't have De Bruyne, Hazard, Courtois. Portugal would be without Cristiano Ronaldo, Ruben Diaz and Bernardo Silva. France, I'm pretty sure, would be without their entire squad. They're just dipping into Tesco and trying to find footballers in there. But obviously, with all of the top 6 Premier League sides stating intentions to move over to the Super League, it's going to be huge for England as well. Football isn't coming home, lads. It got lost. The sat-nav bugged out. It's not on. I'm sorry. But what would our squad look like? Well, that's what we are going to find out today. Going to go through all the positions and try and make a starting 11 come the end of it. If you go on to enjoy the video, slap a like on it and subscribe if you're new. I'm going to be bringing out hopefully daily videos this week, given all of the shenanigans going on. And that probably is the most surprising thing about the entire week. So in goal, now this is one area that's relatively unchanged by what's going on in the world. Obviously, we are without Dean Henderson, contracted to Manchester United, but basically every other goalkeeping option is still available. Nick Pope, who would be my number 1 choice for the goalkeeping spot for the Euros anyway, obviously plays for Burnley, and Burnley, there's nothing super about them. I shouldn't beef them. They literally beat Liverpool 1-0 in the league. What am I talking about? Extremely consistent goalkeeper. Barely see him make mistakes. He was injured, I do believe, against for the game against United, but should be back. And while Jordan Pickford may have confidential Gareth Southgate information kicking about on a hard drive somewhere, he will still be present, but although in my opinion shouldn't be number 1. Does perform well, relatively speaking, for England. That game against Colombia and the save that he pulled out right at the end of extra time being very crucial to us even making the semi-final of that tournament. But his arms are 12 centimeters in circumference. Make of that what you will. The third choice then is a bit of a toss-up between 2 goalkeepers who performed at low-ranking sides with decent shot and save percentages, being first of all Sam Johnston over at West Brom and then Carl Darlow over at Newcastle, both of which put in man-of-the-match performances against my club Liverpool, and then Sam Johnston as well, who's performed well in games against Chelsea and against Manchester United too. Probably Sam Johnston gets the nod here. Anyway, we move on from the goalkeeping department. If that area wasn't affected by this situation, defense most certainly is. Even Kieran Trippier plays for Atletico. The one Don who plays in Spain plays for a team that's involved in this as well. Matty Cash has had a really good season for Aston Villa. Ironically, his name being the sole reason why any of this is happening in the first place. He's also second for interceptions across the whole season, so defensively pretty solid. A good all-rounder and technically not bad. Tariq Lamptey is probably someone that came to most people's heads as well from Brighton. Young, extremely small, the bottom bar of a Wi-Fi signal, but overall a really good player. Has struggled with injuries this season and again is inexperienced. I don't know if he'd start. But one option I'd really like is James Tavernier from Rangers. He obviously won the Scottish League pretty historically this season. Rangers were almost unbeatable in all competitions. He's a good leader. He's the captain of the club, and I think we'll need that leadership. On to centre-back now. Again, no Maguire, no Stones. We move down to Connor Cody, another man who has nudes of Gareth Southgate. Nudes of Gareth Southgate are just him without the waistcoat. He's still wearing a shirt, but it just counts as that. But he does have experience in the England setup, and so does Tyrone Mings, who's another option from Aston Villa. Both have been inducted into this squad for a long time now. One player I think he's overshadowed unfairly is Ezri Konsa in the same team, and I said this with the video that I did with Viz, even before everybody was banned for this tournament. Allegedly. Potentially. It's not alleged. I mean, it is alleged, but I love Ezri Konsa. He's an intelligent footballer, maybe lacks in concentration sometimes, but I think that comes from his inexperience. Honestly, he's a quality centre-back. If he played for Liverpool, people would be raving about this guy. Other options too, Lewis Dunk, bare tall, bare physical, would work probably quite well alongside a slightly pacier centre-back like an Ezri Konsa. Would I back them against Germany? Probably not. And Michael Keane as well for Everton has been pretty impressive this season. At left back, I'm not gonna lie, there's not many options here. I actually really like the possibility of using Aaron Cresswell here because he can work in a 4, but also has the ability to play in a 5 at the back as a wing back or in a 5 at the back as an extra centre back, which could be quite useful. But yeah, so Cresswell I think is a no-brainer in terms of getting into the side. He's got 7 assists this season, but Matty Target from Aston Villa, partner in crime to Matty Cash, is also a good option. James Justin could have done either of these jobs if he was actually fit. It's a shame the man obliterated his knee. Get well soon. I hope the knee unobliterates. I know all about it, mate. I mean, mine still hasn't recovered, so that's not very... These aren't... On to midfield, though, now, starting with the defensive side of things. Someone who's going to be the anchor, really. It's a shame, really, for Calvin Phillips, because he's a really solid option here. Declan Rice has been so good this season for West Ham that I think Declan Rice has to start. But yeah, Declan's had a serious season. He can control the pace of a game, and defensively he's solid. I like this thing that he's added into his game this season, where he's powering forward as well. He's almost added a slight box-to-box element when he wants to, when he can be asked, and I like that. But now a more central midfielder, that's a technical term. The first being James Ward-Prowse, who without Trent Alexander-Arnold would have to be a designated set-piece taker, and I think he'd probably get into the team based off that alone. Also, he's just a cultured midfielder with a good range of pass. But more crucially for Gareth Southgate, if you put a sardine tin 75 yards away from him, he's probably hitting it. But the other option, someone who got their first England cap very recently at the age of just 17, is Borussia Dortmund's Jude Bellingham. Obviously, he's eligible. Borussia Dortmund turned down the idea of a European Super League, so he can go to the Euros regardless, and I think he should be. He knows what he's doing defensively, and as he proved against Manchester City, he's got the finishing as well. He seems like a very all-rounder, but obviously very young and inexperienced. He did ultimately do his SATs levels probably 3 years ago, and is still a child. A child. No. Maybe a Fabian Delph, who can also play in different roles, very versatile. Ross Barkley had a really good first 10 games of the season for Villa. And then in a more attacking sense, we've got good options here too. Obviously no Mason Mount or Phil Foden, but your boy James Madders, who I interviewed and accidentally said that he'd got an England cap before he'd actually got an England cap. I'm sorry, James, if you're listening to this. James Maddison, if you will. He's realistically going to be the creative source in this team. He's got 8 goals and 5 assists as well. Equally, the man in the form of his life and the man who makes every stadium his dance floor, Jesse Lingard, is also an option here. 9 goals and 3 assists in 10 games on loan for West Ham is nutty. He looks happy, he's dancing again, and I would like to see him dancing in front of Joachim Löw in the Euros final as he lifts the trophy. He's doing some mad woe in the background. He's done the woe, but with the trophy. Don't ask me how he's done that. On to wingers, we're without Sterling and Rashford here. Sancho and Grealish, I think, are pretty much shoo-ins in that situation. Sancho got himself back into form, then got injured, but will be back for the Euros. Grealish obviously is out at the moment. Creative source for Villa. He's created double the chances of any other player at that team. Without him, they look a bit of a mess going forward. But backups could be Harvey Barnes from Leicester, who again, another player who looked really good before getting injured recently. 13 goals in all competitions, and if you need an equaliser. And on top of that, Jarrod Bowen has arrived in good form for West Ham at a time where he could be considered in this situation. And that just leaves us with strikers, where there is a gaping hole left by Harry Kane, probably the first name on the team sheet. It's going to be hard to replace him, but I guess Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the first person that comes to mind. Very different sort of striker though, very aerial threat. He's not going to drop deep and try and play make like Kane does. I guess if you want a slightly more all-round striker, maybe Ollie Watkins. 12 goals in his first Premier League campaign is really good. I do still find him quite wasteful though, with the amount of chances that Villa do create for him sometimes. Not like the absolute clinical finisher like a Callum Wilson, for example, who secretly has got 15 goal contributions in just 21 games for Newcastle United. Maybe even over someone like a Danny Ings, who a lot of people have been raving about this season, but statistically, numbers-wise, has not quite been as good. Again, though, he is a different type of striker, got pace to get in behind, could be quite useful. And then there's obviously Patrick Bamford, who's got 14 goals for Leeds. And then Michail Antonio, who I feel like I have to mention, but I think did recently just just pledge allegiance to Jamaica. So what are we saying for the starting 11 then, ladies and gentlemen? Chaps and chapettes, mamacitos and mamacitas. A mamacito sounds like a side dish for a madras. I don't know what they eat. We'll start off in goal, and I think that's an easy one. Nick Pope. I think he was the first choice anyway. He had 5-star skill moves on FIFA once. If we need a skill run. Right back is a bit of a difficult one. If James Justin was fit, I would definitely go for him. It's probably between Cash and for me, Tavernier. Honestly, I really would rate Tavernier. And sometimes stability and solidity is... I think Tavernier would probably add that. I think I'd go for him. Centre-backs is where it gets difficult because I just know for a fact he's going to choose Cody and Mings in this scenario. Then with Konza and I think Keane. Aaron Cresswell, yeah, a left-back. I don't see anybody else really. Matty Target has been good, but not quite on the same level as Cresswell. The assists this season are really good. CDM, again, I spoke about it while sort of deciding. I think it's probably going to be Declan Rice here. And then comes the other two centre-mid slots, and these really are a challenge. It, man, I'm going for Bellingham and actually Lingard. Lingard, the system that England would run here probably isn't the same system that West Ham would run. So I'd say Maddison and Ward-Prowse for games where we're gonna struggle a bit more. Bellingham for games where we're gonna be on the front foot potentially. Moving to the wings, again, as I said earlier on, really this is pretty done deal for me. It's Sancho and Grealish in it. And up top, I guess, I mean, Watkins for link-up play would be really good. But for just killer instinct, I think it's probably Calvert-Lewin. That's probably the starting 11. And you never know, we might still have other players available that go off to a Super League. It may not even happen. It's down to us to make sure that it doesn't happen. I want to see petitions. I want to see people with banners. Just remember, it's not the players' faults, though, that this is happening. It's the owners. Hopefully, it doesn't come to the squad that I have picked here. Hopefully, everybody is able to play, but we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what you thought of the team that I've made down in the comments section. If there's anything you'd change, then let me know as well. But if you enjoyed the video, slap a like on it and subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.